Agastya. In this video, I want to talk about the only miracle sound you need. So, in my videos, I document typically my personal journey and experiences, and what I've been guided to use currently is the sound ah. Ah is a sound that was given by Dr. Ply. It's also existed, obviously, for thousands of years in the mystical traditions. It's also found in many of the traditions around the world. You have Allah, or Allah, excuse me for any pronunciation errors. You have Amen. It's all in the divine languages like Sanskrit, I believe, also Hebrew. A lot of them. The first one is A or Ah, Alpha and Omega. So ah, this sound ah is a fundamental sound, and I want to talk a little about the science, and I also want to share some revelations from the Siddhas and Dr. Ply. So some of the mystical things about ah, which is also called as akara. So you have akara, ukara, makara, which makes up ah, u, ma, or om. And this sound ah, Dr. Ply has done studies with Brain Science International out of San Francisco. He's done fMRI studies with Harvard, and I believe he's also done other studies. He's also done case studies with children and students in both the United States and also in India and other places of the world. And what they're finding with these in these studies is that these children, who are typically children who are poverty or in some cases literally grown up in the slums, who go on and become teachers, engineers, community leaders, and all these different things that are way outside of their trajectory before using this sound in a process or system he calls as phonemic intelligence. What they're finding with Brain Science International, which is available to watch on YouTube, you can watch Jay Gunkelman, who's the foremost leader in the entire world on QEEG, and basically they're finding that, to his surprise, most of the sounds he was expecting to just register in the auditory cortex, what he was finding is this sound goes and activates the entire brain, particularly a part of the brain called the anterior cingulate. Anterior cingulate is responsible for producing these super neurons called von Economo neurons, which are only associated with the most intelligent species in the world, including man, elephants, the great apes, dolphins, etc. There's a very powerful intelligence that can become from these von Economo neurons. And also, they're finding that with the Harvard studies that the sound ah has the ability to what they call globally activate the brain, which is a full activation. Activation being defined as increased blood flow and neuronal firing, if I'm not mistaken. And also, they're finding that this ah sound is also responsible for releasing certain neurotransmitters. And it's a profound, profound miracle sound. Dr. Ply has once said that if you hold on to just one sound, hold on to the sound ah. This sound ah is also the most powerful core of the sound arul. So I had a comment on my Instagram the other day about do more videos about arul. Well, this sound ah is like the sort of the center cap to the spokes of arul, which is ah, ru, il, which can be broken down further into ah, ir, u, il. Ah is the sound. It's the God sound. So in this book by the Siddha Amara Kavi Siddheshwara Nija Ananda Bodham, this Siddha has been recommended by Dr. Ply. He's written a foreword on one of his books, and Dr. Ply has said that I don't recommend books. He's not a fan of books. But this guy, he says yes because this guy is a Brahmanyani. He's a guy who's gotten his information directly from God. And so in this book, which this particular book, not all his books are like this, but this one, which is sort of like I don't want to call it a Bible-esque, but it's very much like this. It's a very profound text. It's sort of written in a divine gibberish or a parable, which they explain in the book is meant. It's intentional that you're supposed to read it sort of without the mind and get it as a psychic information. I want to read you a line about this akara, or he calls it akara, or sometimes akara uli, which all signifies the sound ah. It says, death holds its dimension with life, and Amara Kavi, which is the Siddha, upheld its moves fortified on himself with akara uli, or the cosmic ray, in its single compound of all outer cosmos. So, what I took this line to mean is This sound Akara, because this Siddha Amara Kavi Siddheshwara fortified himself with Ah, he was able to be free from the hold of death on its dimensions with life. He also goes on to reveal that this sound Ah is the cosmic ray, or it's in its single compound of all outer cosmos, meaning this Ah sound contains the entire potential of all existence, or all manifested. So if you want to break God or the divine into two principles, which is existence and non-existence, the sound Ah has the potential potency, all the power, the intelligence, and capability of the entire possibility of the existence, and all the different individual diversity, divergence, is contained within the sound Ah, which can also give you immortality. And we know if you look at the sound Om, the first sound that emerged was the sound Ah, U, Ma. So Ah has the potential for U, it has the potential for Ma. It all starts and originates with the sound Ah. So this Ah sound is truly the God sound. It is the alpha sound of all the different divine sounds. And why I'm saying all this to you is, go and experiment with this sound Ah. You don't have to do anything fancy with it. You just keep this sound Ah going around in your brain. All I've been doing is holding on to the sound Ah in my brain. Now, you want to push the sound wherever you feel guided. You can put it on the line. Remember, I gave him this technique. This is an excellent technique. Dr. Ply, which you can look up on YouTube, there's the Ah meditation, where Dr. Ply gives a technique to use this sound starting in your sex chakra near your genitals and go from there to and pull your sex energy, your kundalini energy, your psychic energy, whatever name you want to call, up through your sex chakra into your third eye to manifest. In phonemic intelligence, you're holding the sound in your brain, then also different parts of your brain. So use this sound and let the intelligence, because this sound Ah is not a dead sound. It's not a husk, so to speak. It is a sound is alive. Just like any sound, there's a personification of the sound. So this sound is at once a sound wave and also has a being that's behind it. And so just by using the sound Ah, you will be guided, just as I have been, to use it in different areas of your brain. Where to put it, and different things like this. You just stick with the sound Ah. Another beautiful thing about Ah, it's very easy to hold on to the sound. Typically with the more complex mantras, it's more difficult to hold on to them, meaning it's more difficult to remember them. It's difficult to take it to the stage of dhyana, which is a state of you're holding on to the sound without saying the sound, which is like instead of having drops of water, it's like a steady pour of honey or a steady pour of oil. The sound's just there radiating. When you have the sound Ah, these single phonemes, it's very easy to hold on to them in dhyana state, which is a very powerful state where you can drive significantly greater benefits from using the sound in that particular state of consciousness. Okay, so I want to wrap it up here and recap quickly. If you want to hold on to one sound, try this sound Ah. This sound has been given by many, many siddhas, and Dr. Ply has said if you just do one sound, use Ah. The siddhas say that this sound Ah has the potency of the entire existence. It is the alpha sound of the entire world. It is the first sound. It is the God sound. It has science behind it that shows that it activates the entire brain. And with this entire brain, we can speculate in that this sound also activates the DNA. If you look at the brain, if you study the brain and how it's 5%, 10% capability that we're using now, also just so happens that our DNA, we're also using only about 10%, and the scientists call the 90% junk DNA. There seems to be a one-to-one correlation between the brain and the DNA. That's why Dr. Ply and the siddhas call the brain as the roots. He says, the famous saying, if you want to enjoy the fruit, go just water the root. You don't water the branches of the tree, you don't water the leaves, you don't water the trunk, you water the root. Meaning, put your attention and focus in developing your brain, and everything else, which is the rest of the body and your consciousness, will take care of itself. This is the sound, and the master sound to do this is this sound Ah. So give it a try. Leave a comment below and let me know, what do you think about this sound Ah, and are you trying it, and have you tried it before? Give this video a like if you found anything in it useful, and as always, please subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. Wishing you the best. God bless.